man, I just love that new book smell. Hey there guys, so Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi is coming out this week, and I thought it was time to do a top 5 related video on the Star Wars canon novels that started all the way back in 2014, which I love, most of them pretty much. But when I mean by canon, it means the stories do take place in the main Star Wars universe. Now, taking in mind I have not read all the Star Wars novels like the Aftermath trilogy, and you may be gutted if there's a particular book that's not going to be on my list. That doesn't mean I don't like it. I mean, there's so many great Star Wars novels that it's so hard to choose. And I pretty much recommend any Star Wars novel apart from Heir to the Jedi, which was a pile of crap. But these are my top 5 favourite Star Wars novels, not my top 5 recommendations. That will probably be a different list. These are the books I just love, I adore, and they're just so crucial for my Star Wars knowledge. But let's get started with number 5. At number 5, we have Tarkin, written by one of my favourite Star Wars writers, James Luceno. Now, Grand Moff Tarkin is one of my favourite Star Wars characters, so I'm so glad we get to see his backstory. We learn why he's so cold and brutal. We get to see his backstory, his planet, his culture, his parents, why Darth Vader lets it get away with him ordering him around, that shared mutual respect. Why Tarkin knows that Darth Vader once was Anakin Skywalker. There's some really intense stuff in this book, like it kind of reminds you of battleships, and it reminds me of one of the greatest episodes of the original Star Trek series, Balance of Terror. At number 4, I have Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad, written by my all-time favourite Star Wars writer, Christie Golding. This is basically a prelude to the main campaign of Battlefront 2. After the destruction of the first Death Star, the Empire decides to assemble a team of unique Imperials to track down traitors to the Empire and infiltrate an extremist rebel group known as the Dreamers. What makes this story so great is that the characters are such a compelling team, watching them become friends and succeed on missions, and the main lead, Iden Versio, is such a brilliant character. You're rooting for her, you're rooting for the Empire to win. You understand why she fights for the Empire, and especially her own heritage. At number 3, we have Dark Disciple, written again by my favourite Star Wars writer, Christie Golding. Now, before going to this book, you need to watch the Clone Wars animated series, since this book focuses on Asajj Ventress, who once was Count Dooku's apprentice. Then later he betrays her and tries to kill her. Luckily she escapes and she became a bounty hunter at the end of the series. Originally this was a script written by George Lucas's daughter that was meant to be in the final series of Clone Wars, but due to Disney buying Star Wars, they didn't really have enough time to do it. So luckily Christie Golding took the 4-episode arc and converted it into a novel. Christie Golding really locks into these characters, and I really like the relationship between Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos, and it was a nice send-off to Asajj Ventress, since some of the best Clone Wars episodes are focused on her. The two characters that really stand out in this book is Mace Windu and Count Dooku. With Mace Windu, who wants to take it to a whole new level and just assassinate Count Dooku. It's not the Jedi way, but we're done playing fair and we're not getting anywhere in this war, so he hires Quinlan Vos to assassinate Count Dooku. And with Count Dooku, he is just such an unappreciated villain in the Star Wars universe, but in this book he's just such a powerful swordsman and he's so manipulative, especially with Quinlan Vos at the end. If you're a Clone Wars fan, you're going to love this book. At number 2, I have Lost Stars, written by one of the greatest Star Wars writers, Claudia Gray. Now, if I was doing a top 5 recommend Star Wars novels, this would probably be at number 1 or number 2 because I recommend it for anyone, especially if you're into love stories. It's about these star-crossed lovers. Both of them join the Empire at first, but later in the book one of them leaves the Empire to join the Rebellion. It takes place about 6 or 7 years before A New Hope, all the way up to the Battle of Jakku, but you also get to go through the events of the original trilogy, whether it's the destruction of the first Death Star, the Battle of Hoth, the Battle of Endor, but in a different, fresh perspective. This came out at the same time as the first Aftermath novel, which was so hyped, but it was a major disappointment. This should have got the same hype as marketing than Aftermath. It was a crime. My favourite Star Wars novel of all time is Lords of the Sith, written by Paul S. Camp. This novel has 2 great stories through it. The first one is about Chan Syndulla, who's Hera's father, who was in Clone Wars and Rebels, who tries to start a small rebellion in order to assassinate Darth Vader and the Emperor. The second storyline is about Darth Vader's and the Emperor's relationship. Who's the bottom dog, who's the top dog, how they understand each other's presence. And I love Darth Vader. He's my favourite Star Wars character of all time, so I'm so glad reading this that we get to see more of a brutal side of him, kind of like the ending of Rogue One. There's this one scene in the book, and it's when the Emperor and Darth Vader are fighting these giant insects, and the Emperor is kind of overwhelmed by these giant insects, but Darth Vader takes a step back and let him die. Luckily he overpowers them. Later in the book he says to him, was you going to let me die? He says, yes. And he said, good. And there's this other scene, and it's at the ending, and for no reason is when the Emperor commands Darth Vader to kill these innocent villagers who are just hiding for no reason. It's so cold, and I was like, oh, and I almost dropped the book. Lords of the Sith is just amazing. If you want more Darth Vader and the Emperor, just read this, and that's why it's my favourite Star Wars novel. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Go like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what are your top 5 favourite novels. Go check out my Facebook, my Twitter and my Instagram page. Till then, I've got your back.